Going to be replacing the spark plugs on my Ninja 650 here today, and to get started off we have to remove the fuel tank. Now if you need assistance in removing the tank, I have a video and I'll be posting the link in the description, but I'm going to get that taken off and then I'll cut back in for the removal of the airbox next. Alright, so for changing your spark plugs, the tools I recommend you have on hand would be a flashlight for seeing in those darker areas, a Phillips head screwdriver, a socket wrench, a 4 and a 5 mil hex, an elbow joint along with an extension, a 10 mil socket, a spark plug removal socket, which in this case I didn't have the metric equivalency, so it's just a 5/8 for removing the actual spark plugs themselves. And finally, for removing the airbox from your throttle body, you'll need a long 3 mil hex. Now other than that, this is optional. I also recommend just picking up some anti-seize and just placing a little bit around the threads before you insert your spark plug, but that is an optional step. With your gas tank removed, you then have to remove your airbox, which basically has your ECU just sitting in it, which can just be taken out. The wiring harness itself is held in by this single Phillips, which has to be removed, as well as this sensor right here. So this has to be unclamped, this has to be unscrewed, at which point you can just take your ECU and leave it on hanging off the side. You don't have to actually unplug your ECU from the bike itself. With the clamp removed, the clip undone, the ECU, as I mentioned, can just be removed, left on the side, and when you're removing your airbox, you can just basically, you're gonna have to angle it out. I'll make sure to capture that on film though, when removing the actual airbox. But to do that, you have this side panel here, which in this situation here, I removed the cover, which is held in by a single 6 mil hex bolt, as well as some push pins where it's just pressed in. So once that 6 mil is removed, you can then pop out the cover, which this is fed under. Then this is just held in by push pins as well. And what I'm going to be doing, just to get some extra clearance, is I'm going to be taking off this 4 mil hex bolt here, just so I can lift it up and lift this up and out of my way. Now to remove your airbox from your throttle body, there's going to be a 3 millimeter Allen or hex bolt all the way through. Hopefully you can see that where I have the 3 mil socket in and connecting to that point. And basically you're going to want to loosen that just enough to lift off the airbox. You don't want to remove it completely, because then you're going to have to hunt it down inside your engine. Good luck. But if you can see that, that is the 3 mil hex nut that you have to loosen to remove the clamps that hold your air cleaner or air filter assembly box onto the throttle body. So with the 3 mil socket attached, you then loosen it without removing it completely, and then test it to see if you've loosened it enough to remove your airbox. Now your hose lines are going to be connected, and you're just going to pull out the hose line with it when removing it. So there's that 3 mil that I was talking about that held it in place, and you have this hose here connecting, which should just pull off, and there you go. Now with the airbox removed, you'll then basically have access to your coil pack, which has a connection on which you just need to release like that and then pull it out. Each one comes out, and then it's just a matter of working the actual coil pack out. Now I can't do it with one hand, I'll need a little more grip than that, but I'll go ahead, remove the clips for you right here, place them on the side. What I've also done is I've inserted some paper towel just to avoid any debris going into my engine. So to remove the spark plugs themselves, once the boot has been taken off the coil pack, you're going to need, well, this is a 5/8. If you have a metric one, that's great, but it's just a regular spark plug remover. 5/8 size with an elbow joint, as well as an extension is what I've used. Then simply a matter of feeding it in, getting on it, and then using your wrench, or your socket wrench rather, to remove your spark plug. So for the Ninja 650 2012 through 2015 model, this is the spark plug that you're going to be going for, the NGK Laser Iridium CR9 EIA-9. So you can pick those up for about anywhere between 10 and 15 bucks a piece, depending on where you're at. So I went ahead and replaced the right spark plug first. I'm going to go ahead and insert the new left one now. But to be honest, my plugs still look pretty good, even after 11,000 kilometers. So you could probably go a bit further, but figured it's a rainy day, might as well do some maintenance. With the spark plugs put back in, you can then reinsert the coil packs. It's just a matter of sliding it up and over this plug itself, and you're gonna just force it in pretty much. Just be careful because your hose is back here, and you don't want to pinch it while you're pushing that down. So make sure you have enough room to get it in there. Once the coil pack is back on, you then just have to reattach the clips, once you have both of them back in, of course. And once that's complete, you can then start reattaching your air box. Now, to make my life easier, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cleaning my air filter as well. So I'm going to take off the top of the air filter, remove the air filter, which will make it much easier to actually put it back on, because I won't be fighting with this harness trying to fit it underneath. I will still have to do some contorting to put the cap back on when I'm done cleaning the air filter. But it's still a lot easier than having to put it back on with the cover still attached. So to reinsert your airbox, it's easier, as I had mentioned before, without the top on, because you won't have to fight with a lack of clearance due to the harness. Just if you did plug up your throttle bodies like I did, just make sure you remove the paper towel. And as for this breather hose right here, it just feeds down. I'll show you once it's reinstalled, but it feeds down through there and it just channels down through this spot here. Now what you have to remember to do is there's two other breather hoses, one here and one here. This one's a bit easier to reattach because it's got more play. This one being down here, you have to reinsert it while you're trying to put it on. So a little more difficult, but it's a bit easier if you can get in from underneath and just push it up while resting the tank on. Once that is seated, make sure your air tubes here, the intake tubes for the throttle body that go from your air filter, are seated and situated over your throttle body correctly, because the clamp has to fit over. Once that's seated properly, it's then a matter of going up and underneath again through here with that 3mm hex wrench with the extended one, and then tightening back down the clamp. Once you've cleaned or replaced your air filter, it's then just a matter of replacing the cap. What you're gonna have to do is stretch the harness up and over while feeding it under and place it on top. It's held in by the 8 screws, plus your air filter itself is held in by a single Phillips. Reinsert your clip. ECU, you have your single bracket here. Once that's back on, you reinsert your 8 Phillips head screws to hold the airbox cover on the airbox itself, and from there it's just a matter of reattaching your clips for your fuel tank, placing the fuel tank back on, reattaching your breather hoses, the 3 bolts that hold the tank on, and your shroud, and then you're pretty much done from there. So that's how you go about changing the spark plugs on a Ninja 650 2012 through 2015 model. If this video helped you out, feel free to toss it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. And as always, thanks for watching.